Welcome back to the Birdies and Bourbon Show. Yes, we are at Pinehurst Brewing Company, and yes, we're going to be tasting bourbon today from Woodford Reserve. Happy to be joined by Laura and Francesca. Give them a quick second to, actually, it's going to be more than a second, but what do you do at Pinehurst?
I am the operations manager at Pinehurst Brewing Company. And Francesca.
And I am the operations manager at the DEUCE restaurant.
I think they're also bourbon tasters, maybe even bourbon blenders, and we're going to be tasting Woodford Reserve, number 5 and number 6 today. We're kind of doing this blind, so we don't really know which one we're going to be tasting. We may not be tasting the same one at the same time, but we're going to work our way through it. I think we might as well go ahead and have a little sip.
Sure thing.
Lots of vanilla on the nose on this one. Well, that's nice. Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about your relationship with Woodford, and what's the Pinehurst Woodford experience look like from your side of the table?
Yeah, so our relationship started in 2019. We went to the distillery in Kentucky in 2020, right before the whole world shut down. So we blended a barrel there, and that, like I said, the world shut down, so that kind of pushed back the barrel coming to Pinehurst. And that landed in May of 2020. And that was one barrel, and we were done. So in 21, we wanted to kind of expand the program a little bit. And we did, we started naming our blends after our courses. We have 9 courses. So in 2021, we did course number 1, 2, and 3, and spread those out throughout the year. And then we did the same in 2022. We attempted to spread those out 4, 5, and 6 throughout the year. But with glass shortages and shortages at the distillery, 5 and 6 actually came to us in December of 2022. So that's why we have 5 and 6 here today.
Okay, so not necessarily intentional that 5 and 6
Right.
are at the same time. It's just the way that things have
The way
occurred.
the world is working.
Yeah, cool. Well, I mean, it's great because we get to sample too, and we get to talk about which one we like better.
Absolutely.
And we're going to talk about right and left instead of, and we'll get to the numbers eventually. So, what about the blending experience? Like, do you have is your background in distilling, or are you just like we're gonna try this and make it work? I mean, how did the whole blending exercise come about? And it's because the first glass right, it's pretty damn tasty.
It's pretty good. So when I started this, I knew nothing about bourbon. I really wasn't a bourbon drinker. So my journey with bourbon really started in 2019. But I tagged along Francesca, who is our bourbon expert on the property. And she's taught me so much, and she's kind of traveled with me to the distillery and to all the meetings. The distillery has been shut down essentially since 2020. They're reopening for tours and blending this year. So we have not been back to the distillery since 2020.
When you do get that scheduled, I know a couple folks that might want to tag along with it.
Tag along, absolutely. We have a great time.
So we got 9 courses. We got 9 courses on property today.
Yep.
We're going to have 10. And does the 9 include the cradle or no?
No. So technically we have 9.5 courses open on property operating right now. The
Gotcha.
cradle being our half course.
So we've got at least 5.5 more expressions coming. If I'm reading into this right.
You are. So Francesca and I just met yesterday with the team from Woodford, and we blended 7 and 8, which will come out this year. And then in March, we'll go to the distillery to blend 9. So 7, 8, and 9 will essentially come out sometime in 2023. And then we've got the U.S. Open coming in 24.
Making this way too easy because I was going there. And so Pinehurst number 2, that is the PGA, the professional course where they will be playing the U.S. Open in 2020. 4. How much can you tell us about what's going to be happening for that?
So, by the end of this year, we'll make it through all our 9 golf courses with 9 different blends. We've done a blend for the Cradle, a blend for our North-South Bourbon Bar, a blend for our members. So essentially, after the U.S. Open, we were planning to kind of close the chapter with our Woodford project. And we've just found out we've got course number 10 coming online. So that may continue after 2024. But in regards to the U.S. Open, we're just going to do 1 barrel, multiple barrels of that blend for 2024, and see how many barrels we can get from the distillery.
Like 33, 5. I mean,
we're
undisclosed.
We're hoping for a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure there's nothing left on the shelf as soon as it comes in. I mean, I can only imagine it's out the door, right?
Maybe 72 hours on the shelf.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. A good problem to have, by the way.
It is a good problem.
All right, so let's get back to the bourbon a little bit. So for those of you that are listening, you didn't see that I snuck a taste of the left already. Can't resist. And there are 2, while they're similar profiles, there are 2 distinctly different blends. Nose, palate, all the way around. What's your process? So when you started with one, did you have was there intent, right? Did you know where you wanted to go and what profile you were going after? Or did it just kind of develop and this is what we like and this is the direction that we're going?
So for the very first blend that we created back in January of 2020, which was a really great experience, Laura and I got to sit with the master tasters and distilling team at Woodford on their property, their beautiful property in Lexington, Kentucky, which was a lot of fun for us. We were just starting this program. We did not know how successful it was going to be. We didn't know that we were going to continue this 9 more times in the following years. And we were looking for I'm going to say palatable, welcoming bourbon. We wanted a bourbon that played really well in cocktails, that was very versatile, that wasn't something that punched you in the face with flavor, that wasn't off-putting or exclusive or something that only a very, very advanced bourbon connoisseur would enjoy. We wanted something that was refined, that was palatable, that worked in a cocktail, that captured a really large audience. And I think that we accomplished that pretty well with our initial spirit back in 2020, which is long gone now. Following that, as we kind of learned that we were going to continue this program, we started to factor in some other details like season and time of year that we'd be getting it, what was going to be happening on property, who was going to be on property at the time that these bourbons would land, how we could get them out to all of our outlets, how we could touch all of our guests and our members, our country club members, and really get the community behind it, get the team and the staff that's selling it behind it. So it became fun to kind of factor in all of those things, as opposed to the initial one. We were just tasting several different samples of single barrels and going with what we thought was the tastiest.
How soon after it arrived were you like, oh shit, we didn't buy nearly enough?
Immediately,
yeah, pretty quickly.
Immediately, and that's when we went into 2021 with, okay, we have to do multiple barrels, but multiple barrels of each blend.
Right.
And then the idea came about, well, the community loves this so much, can we sell it in our local ABC stores? And we were allowed to do that. I mean, we teamed up with the general manager of the ABC stores here in Moore County, and she welcomed the project. And we just keep dumping it on her, and she loves it because it comes in and 72 hours later, it's gone. It's gone.
Yeah, you're creating the issue of, hey, I'm here to get this, and where's
Yep.
Again, good problems to have. So let's go to the left. Let's nose and taste, and I mean, I already have a favorite, by the way.
You do?
Yeah. So would you agree that, and I don't know, so right and left, would you, there's no way you would confuse these for the same blend or expression?
Well, what's interesting about the project that we have going on here, there's a lot of similarities in what we're doing, right? So this is all Woodford Reserve. This is all the exact same mash bill, 72% corn in the mash. So there's not a ton of variety. It's not the difference that you taste between a rye and bourbon.
Yep.
It's 72% corn. They're all aged the same amount of time. The subtle nuances that you're tasting as far as the differences in the flavor profile is coming from the barrel itself. So an expression I like to tell people, analogy I like to give people is you think of that barrel as an ingredient in the bourbon. You think of that one cast iron skillet you have at home that has all that flavor in it, and everything that comes out of that pan has that special flavor. It's just as much an ingredient, that cast iron skillet, that pan that's creating all that flavor itself, as what you're cooking. The same is true of the bourbon and the barrels. So you have 33 staves in a barrel from 33 different white American oak trees from 33 different states potentially, and all of those uniquenesses to the staves of the barrel, to the wood sugars, create these very, again, subtle flavor differences in the flavor profiles. So it's fun to taste through this collection because it's not a really vastly different flavor profile. It's a very nuanced, and you'll get maybe a little bit more spice on one and a little bit more vanilla on another. But it's a lot of fun to taste through.
Yeah, and that's I guess just to clarify, when I said they're vastly different profile-wise, absolutely. I mean, there's the traditional bourbon notes that you're picking up on the nose, you get it on the palate. I mean, you're getting the oak, you're getting the brown sugars that are in there. But you mentioned like the heat, and I think this one is 90.4, I believe. Are they both 90.4?
Yes, same.
Yeah. Okay,
So that's Woodford's standard.
Yep. Gotcha. Okay, so same. Let's talk we'll get into a little more about Pinehurst and the resort and what you guys do, ladies do, excuse me. But let's talk about, what are you thinking, left or right? And what notes are you getting on these?
What are you thinking?
Well, I did write some stuff down. I scribble it out so I can't really read it, and then I just make it up as I go along. So right to me, it drinks around 90 proof. I would say it's a 90 proof bourbon. A lot of maple, a lot of vanilla. I get a little kind of pecan pie in there, or pecan. Pecan or pecan?
Either way is fine with us.
All right, so all the same. And it is, this is something I would give to someone that is just getting into bourbon. I don't really know if I like it or not. I'd hand this to them, and it's the sweet, it's savory. There's a lot of good stuff going on in here. A little bit of, it's almost like a salted pecan pie or pecan pie, whichever way you want to get.
Salted.
I definitely pull some almond off this one. I get a lot of the nuttiness, that thickness of the nutty that you're pulling.
Yeah.
Vanilla, which is going to be somewhat
Traditional,
prominent,
right?
no matter what we're tasting. And keep in mind, all of our lefts and all of our rights are not the same.
That is, that's a good, thank you for reminding me. I may have had a good day yesterday, in case you can't hear it in my voice. Actually, I did have a great day yesterday. And by the way, thanks to all the folks at Pinehurst and Pinehurst Brewing. Course number 8, if you haven't played it, you're missing out, and you definitely should.
Great course.
Yeah, stop by and say hi to Dave and Rob. And Daniel, if you can find him. I don't know, he's slippery, but he'll be around somewhere. That's a good point. Okay, so my left. So this is like a baked cherry pie. You know, like the little hand pie, the little small one. This is like a baked cherry pie to me, and it drinks it doesn't drink hot necessarily, but it drinks hotter than the right does
It's a
for
little
me.
spicier.
Yep, absolutely.
I see cherry. So I think you and I have the same lefts and rights.
Okay.
Because I'm pulling some cherry, a little bit more astringency, that bite or that burn that you'll sometimes hear in bourbon, which my left finishes very, very subtly. My right finishes with
Still finishing.
just that little bite.
Still finishing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't drink a lot of Woodford. And I don't drink a lot of Woodford because a lot of Woodford that I have had in the past, it's great. I don't want to say I drink a lot, but I drink a lot. So, I tend to go for the higher proof. I tend to, like nothing subtle, right? I mean, I want to go and have to kind of dig through. I do like the punch in the face stuff.
You like the loudest guy in the room.
Did she just call me the loudest guy in the room? But yes, I do. So on the right this is golf course drinking bourbon.
Easy.
All day long.
Yep.
And just I don't even need a glass. We'll just pull it right out of the bottle, right? On the left, I just enjoyed a plate of ribs, maybe some baked beans and coleslaw, and I want a little after dinner drink. I want something to kind of mellow this out and tune down the barbecue. That is what the left does for me.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, I want to know what we've got so we can really dig a little deeper here. I didn't cheat. So what's your right?
I've got 5 on the right.
I've got 6 on the right.
I have 6 on the right.
Okay.
Yeah. So 5 to me is definitely. Oh, hold on. Unless I told him not to give me 2 6s.
Nope, I have a 5.
Yeah. All right. I got a
And I
5
have
too.
6 on the left.
So I find both equally good. I think that they could serve 2 different drinkers. I also think they could serve this one drinker just maybe at a different time of day. Nothing like having whiskey in the morning. So what do we got to look forward to? I mean, we talked about the U.S. Open. We talked about there's 5.5 more expressions coming. What's the next step? Because I think everything that you've released thus far has been the traditional, or I'm going to say standard offering, even though it's not standard, but the traditional Woodford offering. And Woodford does. I mean, we've got double oaked. I think they've got a double oaked. I mean, they've got some different interesting things that they're doing. Where do you get to? Where's the evolution lead you to down that path?
So Woodford does have a double oaked along with a rye. Woodford has a very, very good variety in their lineup. Laura and I make our triumphant return to Woodford's property this March, so we will be back in Lexington soon enough. And I think from there we'll sit with the team and if we want to throw a little variety into the lineup, that might be something that we're looking to do in the coming years.
Maybe a double oaked. It's kind of where my mind's been.
Put us on the list. Hey, and we're getting closer to the dates. We went from there's a visit coming up to now we've got March. We're getting closer to an invitation, I think. Or we're getting closer to getting uninvited, and you better make a day of it, boy. So what else? What else are you doing other than bourbon, other than blending, other than the expressions? You want to talk a little about the DEUCE?
Sure. So the DEUCE is one of our restaurants here on property, named after course number 2, of course, DEUCE 2, and it sits at the 18th green of course number 2, looks out over the 18th green, so we have a lot of fun watching players coming up off the 18th green. We have a lot of fun cheering them on their final putts. We have a great outdoor seating. I like to say it's the best view at any bar in Moore County. I think we've got the absolute best view that there is out here. So we have a lot of fun at the DEUCE. We carry the entire Woodford lineup as it's available on property. And we have some fun events coming our way, soon to be a little more fleshed out and determined with Woodford. But come by and see us. We're open 7 days a week, lunch and dinner. It's a good time.
Yeah, do y'all do any, do you do bourbon tastings and
So we do offer a bourbon flight. We have hosted some ticketed events, bourbon dinners, where we'll have the Woodfords, our lineup actually infused into the cooking and have some really cool creative sauces and gastriques and infused flavors with our bourbon, paired well with our bourbons, and we'll taste you through the entire lineup with a small course to pair with each one of our bourbons in a flight, which has been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Laura?
Hey, Cal, a good afternoon is at the DEUCE, and just watching those players come in on the 18 there and placing your bets on which one's going to, shoot lower or whatnot.
Hey! I heard you back there. Could you just hold it down?
Can you hold it down? Can you hold it down a little bit? Hey, I hear you betting. Please, I get it. I get it.
Just hold it down.
Just keep it down.
Just
Just
hold
keep
it
it down, please. Thanks.
I know. I'm thinking maybe. I mean, this could be a day, man, for sitting on the patio or sitting on the porch back there. Do you call it? Is it a porch? Can I call it?
We call it the patio.
The patio. So sitting on the patio, maybe a little Woodford, maybe a Stogie. Even though I don't smoke. Could
It's
be
a great spot.
Could be a thing.
It's a great spot.
Could be a thing. Weather, by the way, we got extremely lucky. I'm going to date us a little bit. It'll be fine, but we're in the second week in January.
Yes.
Yes, correct.
We're mid 50s, nothing but sunshine, and
beautiful.
yeah, couldn't have asked for a better time, a better trip. What else do you have going on, Laura, at Pinehurst? What's happening in 2023?
Well, Pinehurst Brewing Company, there's always something going on. So we always have festivals, events going on. We just try to have fun here. Hunter does such a great job. He and Dalton brewing the beer, and we've got a good calendar this year. A lot of fun, exciting beers coming out. Lots of great events. We're just looking forward to it.
Speaking of Pinehurst Brewing,
Yeah.
and I'm going to go back to, I guess I can't go back. I'm going to go forward to the U.S. Open. Can we expect a U.S. Open Pinehurst beer? If you can say, or if you can't?
It's definitely in the works.
Okay.
We'd like to incorporate Woodford into whatever beer we do make for the U.S. Open. We also have a private label wine that we'd like to incorporate Woodford with. So a lot of fun things in the works right now for the U.S. Open.
So I just heard a bourbon barrel aged beer, and I heard a wine finished
Bourbon barrel.
Bourbon cask wine.
coming
Yeah.
on. Okay.
And Hunter's cringing right now because we're going to have to get that beer in the barrels like yesterday maybe. Yeah. 2 days ago.
He's going to be busy the rest of the day. I'm just saying. No reason to
He
disclose
always
what he's
comes
going to be doing.
through and makes it happen.
So, Cal, last night we had, one of the things that we like to hear, like, is creativity, right? So, Sagamore made that, what was it, a Manhattan finish, or was it an old fashioned?
It's Manhattan.
Manhattan. They made a Manhattan finished kind of bourbon, right? Hunter had this thing last night that tasted like key lime pie. It was amazing. That beer.
Oh, the beer. Yeah. What was the beer?
Mile High
yes.
Key Lime.
Mile
That
High
was
Key
cool.
Lime. Yeah.
So good.
It
Yes.
was
So good.
Yeah, it was definitely like you were drinking a key lime pie.
So we have a fantastic key lime pie on property here that's made on property and it's served in one of our restaurants and it's about this big. So when he came up with the beer, we had to incorporate that
It's
key
cool.
lime pie.
That's cool.
It's so good. He did a great job with it.
All right, so I know you're both invested in both of these. Which one do you prefer today?
For me, number 6.
Okay.
That's my favorite.
Again, depends on the weather, depends on the time of day, but probably number 5.
They're crossed.
I know I'd break the tie, but I'm like, why don't we just blend them and have a little of each in
There you
a
go.
glass?
So when it comes to decision time, we go back and forth because she has a completely different palate than I do.
Yeah.
But we settle on it.
We settle on
We
it,
definitely
and that's
settle. Friendly.
probably the most fun
Yeah.
part of the tasting experience.
Yeah. So do you find like with every expression or almost that it is definitely like I'm over here and you're over there, like on two separate sides, or
So the very first time that we did this, I remember sitting next to Laura and we had narrowed it down to the final 2. And she had each one in her hand. We had A and B. And she kept going, I'm not sure. I'm not sure which one I like the most.
yeah, it's definitely. Okay.
I don't know. They're both so good. I really don't know. I really don't know what we should do. And I said, I think you like A.
Yeah.
I think you're pretty sold on A.
Yep.
And that is how the very first one came to be. Now, the very first blend that we were tasting, our final 2 really were polar opposites. One was kind of that loudest guy in the room, that super, super peppery, really punchy in the face, really bold. And the other was really quite refined, very subtle, and very, I thought, palatable, welcoming. So that was the one that we went with in 2020.
Gotcha.
And it's not necessarily about what I like or what Francesca likes. We have to put it all into perspective. It's about what's going to sell to our guests here on property.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. Well, it's going to sell. It's just are people going to say good things about it, right?
Yeah. How fast?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So 1 through 6, is there an expression that really stands out to you? I mean, it could be number 1 just because it was number 1 and it worked. But is there, like, to date, is there something that you're like, that one was special?
I think for me, the 2020, the first blend that we ever did is something I always go back to.
Yeah.
And my bottle is getting down and down and down and down, and once it's gone for good. So for me, 2020 is my favorite.
You've still got some of 2020?
I do. Only for very special people.
Don't give the address online, but offline we'll talk about it. What about Francesca? What about you?
Again, the very first one that we did
Yeah.
holds such a special place, I think, to both of us. It was a new experience. It was something that we were so excited to be doing and didn't really know exactly what was to come. We were kind of learning as we went and kind of playing it by ear, which was a lot of fun. Now, we do this all the time. At this point, we sit and taste bourbon and work with the team from Woodford pretty regularly now. But at that time, it was just all so new and so exciting.
Sure.
So I think 2020, our very first spirit was the one I liked the most.
Yeah, cool. I don't know, ladies. I don't know what else I have, but while Dan is getting ready to ask a question, we don't let him do this often because Dan is not really real. Dan's kind of a bot.
I'm a bot. Yeah. So we talked about this before, and I don't think we honed in on it. But coming into like next year with the big year or whatnot, have we gotten the cocktail? Do you have a preferred cocktail for these, and something that's going to be, you're going to push with that?
Great question.
That is a good question. I mean, my favorite bourbon cocktail is the old fashioned. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's just hands down what I like to drink and sip on. So perhaps a U.S. Open old fashioned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a little spin on that'd be good.
A little spin on it, of course. A
Like
Pinehurst.
the pine fashion.
Yeah, pine fashion.
I like that.
I don't know. A little maybe a little sprig of some kind of. I mean, there's lots of cool things.
There's lots.
And bourbon is a very, very versatile spirit.
Sure.
You kind of think bourbon cocktails, okay, Manhattan Old Fashioned, that's it.
That's it. There's a bourbon mule.
The movement that has happened with bourbon over the past few years, the expansion that has happened as far as cocktailing with bourbon, as far as bourbon champagne cocktails, sparkling wines, bourbon beer cocktails, and we've done a lot of really fun experimental stuff. We've smoked some stuff. We've made made our own bitters. We've made our own syrups. We've had a lot of fun with it, and it's great to be able to have people come to property and open their eyes a little bit that it's not just your grandfather's old cocktail.
Sure.
It's not just the old fashioned, the Manhattan. There's a lot more to do with this very, very versatile spirit.
Yeah, so for a benchmark, we talked a lot about Woodford, and understandably so. If you're going to drink bourbon and it's not going to be Woodford from Pinehurst, because it does come in limited amounts, what's a go-to for you?
Great question. If I'm going to drink bourbon and it's not Woodford from Pinehurst, it is likely Buffalo Trace, Blanton's I have at home. We actually got to spend a little bit of time at the Buffalo Trace distillery, which was very, very cool, polar opposite of Woodford's property.
Yeah.
Also in Kentucky, but very industrial brick buildings as opposed to Woodford, which is rolling
elegant,
hills
soft,
But Buffalo Trace makes a great spirit. And what else do I have at home?
Old Forester.
Old Forester.
Yeah.
Old Forester
That's a good one.
1920, which is
Yeah.
a lot of fun to play around with.
Does Old Forester make another expression than 1920?
They do.
They do. The reason 1920 is so fun, and the reason it's named 1920, is because it is a Prohibition era recipe. Very sweet, very chocolatey, thick molasses. We've done some really fun dessert cocktails, some
nice.
chocolate, vanilla, almost kind of like a milkshake turned cocktail. Very, very tasty, fun things with 1920. But
I know what I'm having for lunch.
There you go.
Cool. So let's, I guess we'll finish drinking, but if you want to close us out, where can they find you? What else can happen? And
So we're always here.
We're always here.
Pinehurst, North Carolina. I'm at the brewery. Francesca's at the DEUCE.
Come say hi.
You know, and you can drink all of our bourbon on property here at Pinehurst.
cool. Well, it's been way too long. I hope that it's sooner rather than later. And I guess until next time, I'll say cheers.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.